shall we actually do what we found to be important to our clients, which is being physically close to their offices with skilled engineers.
Even the big boys are renting shared office spaces. And that, I think, makes it really difficult for clients to actually differentiate between who has a genuine presence here versus who has a name plaque on the door with nothing in it.
With all the advancements in technology, how important do you see it for the individual upskilling themselves?
I genuinely believe now more than ever that the skill trench is just deepening and deepening and deepening. And if you want to be in those higher paying positions, higher paying roles, you've got to be studying in your own time. You've got to have a passion for it.
Just an Excel spreadsheet and a shared folder somewhere and nobody's looking at it anymore, and it's a point in time historic document.
How do you create a competitive difference when you're all using the same platform?
Better software tooling in the market that we're looking at, even from 12 months ago, let alone 3, 4, 5 years ago.
Making sure that when you are talking about scale, you're talking about things that matter, not just the raw numbers.
Hello and welcome back to The Scale Up, our podcast where we talk everything growing a business. My name's Jack and I'm joined again today by Drag and Sam. And we're going to change things up a little bit today. We're going to, rather than talking about what we've done, we're going to talk a little bit more about what we're going to be doing.
Jack, before you get onto that, what have you been up to?
Been a busy period, working personally. I've moved into a new house, which funnily enough was the house I grew up in. It was actually mine and Sam's original family home that my mum sold. So I've moved into there, and me and my wife have kind of done a lot of renovations. We've got a bathroom fitter in a couple of weeks' time. So yeah, a lot of change, a lot of moving in the right direction, I guess. But it's been a hectic period. Yeah.
How about you, Jack?
Oh, myself, I went to Macedonia. Actually, went on my cousin's wedding. We did that. Went there for a couple of weeks, which is quite nice to see family.
Is that like
friends.
a proper do in Macedonia?
Yeah, it is proper do. Yeah, like on here when I had my wedding in England, you had like 100 odd people. Over there, the normal was like 300-400 people. And
where did they get them all from?
Just random villages. The funny thing is, like if you invite someone 10 years after, and basically the mothers, they say, "Oh no, you invited this person, so you have to invite them back to the wedding." I'm like, "Why? We haven't seen them for like 10 years." He goes, yeah, but out of respect, you have to invite them. Like, I don't know where they live.
I bet you they get an invite like, oh.
Probably do, because they have to give money then.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, they actually note down how much money they've given to someone. So then they have to return it back.
Fully reciprocal thing.
Yeah, and I'm
do you
like,
account for inflation in that?
Well, no inflation, no. No. So you get married first.
Yeah.
I see why you didn't do it over there now, mate.
Yeah. Actually, your wedding was actually abroad, wasn't it?
Sam's was.
Yeah.
Oh, Sam's was, yeah. That was quite good, wasn't it?
Yeah. We just did a kind of like family destination wedding. But it wasn't really like a wedding per se. It was like we hired a villa and then did our own thing. One of my best mates was our officiant, which was quite a kind of like weird dynamic at that point. Just like your mate just stood there reading it. It's like, it made it really nice. It's quite like a more emotionally intense, I guess is the right word. But yeah, it was good.
There was only about 20 people compared to 300.
Yeah, I wouldn't have had 300 there.
I had a bit of an issue with my flight as well.
Not again?
Yeah.
What'd you do this time?
I haven't told you this yet. Honestly,
this is a breaking news on the podcast.
The thing is, I use my credit card as and when I need to use it for like going on flights and stuff for holidays.
Yeah.
So then I paid for the flight back in April time, or I can't remember, no, for April? Don't know when it was. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Get to the airport, check in, invalid. I'm like, what? What's going on here? So go and ask one of the people that work there.
At this point, like your heart rate's through the roof, right? Because you've already missed one flight. Yeah.
I'm stressed because the kids are like, what's happening? I'm like, oh, nothing. And then I speak to someone else. Nope, you're not on the flight. I'm like, it has to be on the flight. I've got to be. You need to go to customer care. So I had to go to customer care. Now the kids are kicking off and I'm like thinking, oh, please just end this for me right now. I get there. Oh no, we have to call Austria Airlines. So call them. We've refunded your tickets. We had an issue with the flights. You had to refund them. I'm like, I never checked my credit card. I'm like, are you joking me? So then I had to pay £3,200. First she goes, oh, it's 2,800. I'm fuming. I'm like, oh, I have to
go. How much were they normally?
1,300. So
you got tripled.
Yeah, I know. So then I'm like, okay, 2,800. I'm fuming. She goes, okay, so that's a single. I went, what? What do you mean a single? Because that's a single. I'm like, well, no, I need to come back. So then 3,200 for a turn. And I'm fuming at this point.
Yeah, name and shame. Who's the
So then I had to put the Australia Lines.
Oh, man.
Yeah, honestly, that I was fuming. And before that, obviously, the palaver with the passport thing. And then this.
Yeah, at this point, you're like, I'm just going to get a boat next time.
Just swim there. Yeah, that was my disastrous part of the holiday.
Wow, yeah.
Nice. And what about you, Sam?
Yeah, not been up to much really. Just kind of like adjusting to life with a year-old now. And yeah, just kind of settling into a new house. We've moved, trying to put off doing work on the house for as long as possible. But I think that's coming, and it's probably going to be a little bit of a stressful situation. But
you started on it yet or not?
No, we've kind of like in the getting drawings, getting quotes, doing all of that stuff. So yeah, I'm sure that will land soon. I'm trying not to kind of progress it too quickly.
That's when stress comes in.
Yeah, literally. So I'm there like, okay, let's just chill a little bit. Yeah. I think as well, like, even in the time that we've been in, like, you see where the sun kind of rotates around the house and where the little sun traps are, where you could put seating, and just kind of living in the space makes it kind of talk to you in a different way that you wouldn't if you hadn't lived there. So we just want to make sure we get it right. We will be making quite a wholesale change. It is a forever home kind of option. Yeah. So yeah, not in a rush, just trying to take all the intensity out of life a little bit and just kind of slow it down.
Yeah.
Nice. Perfect. Well, we'll get on to the main topic of this podcast then, and that's about the kind of challenges and opportunities that are coming down the line for us and what we're kind of discussing and looking at and how we're preparing our business for that.
I have a client who calls everything an excitement. And I think it's a very nice, positive way of framing things that are very, very...
Oh, so if they're bad, it's still an excitement.
Yeah, have you heard of the excitement?
I like that. So we have a lot of excitements coming.
Yeah, we have a lot of excitement
to talk about. I actually did a LinkedIn post a couple of months ago that I kind of thought would be quite poignant to set up this conversation, and that's kind of what we've achieved over the last 12 months around becoming a solutions partner across the 4 designations. We've completely defined our technical blueprint and implemented automation tools. We've expanded our team. We've built a sales and marketing engine. We've rebuilt our billing platform. We've launched this podcast. We've done some ISO certifications, and we've opened a new office in Bristol. So we've done a hell of a lot in the last.
Haven't done much, have we? It's been been a quiet
last 12 months.
12 months, yeah.
And there's probably a load more as well, and obviously that's across the whole team. But all of this has been preparing us for the future, and some of that was pre-thought about a long time before. Some of it was kind of flexible and kind of how we went.
Yeah, and well, I think it's a really nice and positive way to put it in those terms where they're tangible improvements and they're not necessarily tied to, head count, financials, or any of the other metrics that would typically denote scale. I think one of the things that we spoke about in the last podcast with Anita was, making sure that when you are talking about scale, you're talking about things that matter, not just the raw numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. And off of that backdrop, Drag, what kind of opportunities do you think are coming down the line? What are those conversations that we're now having for the next 12 months?
I think that we spoke about the other day, actually, about growth. We're finding it harder to find the kind of right fit, should we say? Not only kind of the technical aspect, but also kind of to fit into our kind of, our kind of environment. I think more and more people tend to just come into IT and think it was like, say, 10 years ago. But the way it's gone all to cloud-based, you probably know more, Sam, because you're in that kind of industry, like Azure is your kind of baby. Trying to do kind of exams in that does make you learn the product much better. And I find that if you're not in it for long enough, like if you don't do it for, say, 12 months, you're so out of it. And to learn it back again is such a hard task.
Yeah, I think the last 3 years, maybe a little bit longer, but the last 3 years have been industry changing for our market.
Do you not think it's changed quite quickly?
Really quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, skills that I would have said were fringe for me.
Yeah.
I've often done some web app testing. I've often done some development work. I've kind of been in the fringes of mainstream IT as such, now stand me in really good stead 3 years later, because, I've spent the morning writing some code that essentially checks whether the web request is a 200 or a 404 or whatever. And, in the past, that would have been like a never happens for an IT person to have to do that kind of stuff. Now it's day-to-day bread and butter.
So that goes back to what we discussed the other day, actually. Another thing is AI. Everyone keeps talking about AI. You use that to your advantage, don't you, to some aspects?
Completely, yeah. And, you know, I mean, I'm not a forefront expert on AI at all. But, you know, even in the last month, I've used the Azure AI Foundry content understanding that they released in preview to analyze our sales calls for...
I should tell them what happened in that one.
Yeah. I did accidentally create a bug that ran the same call recording through the platform 75,000 times and cost us almost $2,000. But Jad didn't know about that one. So
I did know about it. I put it down as learning.
Cost of development.
Yeah. R&D.
Winning the R&D. But, you know, yeah, things like that are going to happen when you're using things that you don't know too much about. But yeah, you know, analyzing calls for sentiment analysis. And, you know, we've done some work for our billing platform for payment reconciliation. And, you know, for me, using Codex, which is a ChatGPT module, and straight into Visual Studio Code, which, I mean, I can produce a 550 line decent script in a few, like, you know, an hour, 2 hours of prompting. As
long as you prompt it, the good information.
You've got to prompt it correctly, and you have to be able to verify. Like, you know, you still need to be a developer. You still need to be able to read the code, understand, you know, bits that you're writing. It just speeds that up so much. You know, it's crazy how far it has moved in such a short period of time.
Do you not find the people you have worked with in like currently now, do they have any qualifications? I've not mentioned certain clients, but you work with some clients. I don't focus on Azure stuff or 365, do they? The actual stack from people you've worked with in the past or present, shall I say?
What do you mean? Sorry.
People you worked with, do they have any Microsoft qualifications? Because I think not many people do it. They just think IT is just the same as it was before, just
I see.
rock up.
Oh, you mean people being left behind as such?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that where the industry is kind of moving very rapidly, the technical skill required to hold a like deep skilled role is getting like deeper, basically. And you know, entry level roles do exist, will exist, so on. But the ones that are skilled are becoming more and more skilled. They're becoming, you know, if they're able to consume information quickly and act on information quickly, like the amount that you can progress in a short period of time is massive.
Over the next 12 months, 2 years, 5 years, AI and automation getting built into your processes and making you and your employees more effective, not replacing them as such, but making them more impactful and more effective is a really important part of what we need to learn now as a business to still be here in 2 to 5 years. And you're kind of verging on, how do we almost roll that out across employees? How quickly it's already gone to people being left behind, that this is only going to get quicker. And
the thing is, you have to get buy-in, don't you, from all the staff as well. Like we originally, if you ask them to do the exams and then us three don't do it at all, they get them to do it. They're not kind of like, well, if you're not doing it, then why should I?
Yeah,
I think when we started it,
one of the things that we were looking at. Copilot, obviously big in our market, specifically Microsoft 365 Copilot. And, you know, with all the good stuff that we've been doing on the cloud enablement projects, where we're getting people off on premise and into SharePoint, we now have a data source to train LLMs on. Copilot Studio comes into that. So we're literally looking at, you know, how can we build a strategy for a professional service that we can put into our clients and essentially give them a one-off project where we educate them on how they can achieve all of these things themselves. So it's kind of like a /training /professional service /consultancy. It's a bit of a mix that we've never had to land on before, because it's like crossing boundaries, and AI is the cause of that. So anyway, Neil went on a day webinar, just understanding of Copilot. And I rang him at like 4:00 in the afternoon. I said, you know, how did you get on? Was it really, really, you know, useful, insightful? And he sounded so flat, flat. And I was like, what's going on there? And he just went, just existential dread, Sam. Like, you know, I'm sat here and they're saying, well, you know how HR do this? You don't need that. And you know how, and you know, he's right. You know, I don't think we're thinking clearly enough about the impact of the changes that we're making.
Yeah.
But I don't think humanity has ever done that. I don't think we sat there and went, is a tractor a good invention?
Yeah.
We just built a tractor and automated hundreds of people's jobs on a farm. That's just the way we've always been. But the shift is dramatic. It's huge. And, he was explaining to me that to get to 300 million users for like Facebook, and don't quote me on any of these statistics, so I'm not going to remember them.
Yeah.
But to get to 300 million users for Facebook, for Google, for all of those technologies was years. And to get to 300 million users for ChatGPT, which is obviously the biggest large language model, it took 3 months.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Like the rate of adoption is like we've never seen. And the impact that it is having is like we've never seen.
Yeah.
I do completely agree with Neil. It's almost, when I'm discussing it and thinking about it for our business, it's almost you have this like moral view on it from your own personal perspective.
Yeah, but capitalism doesn't give you that right.
You don't. Yeah, you need to go in and be as effective as you can as competing in the marketplace that you're in, and this is a big part of it.
And if we're not able to go in, say to our clients, this is how you can use Microsoft 365 Copilot, which is essentially the most basic use case of
the client loves
AI.
it. She's got Copilot and she uses it for SharePoint stuff. Excuse me. For SharePoint, looking for emails.
Yeah.
She'll look at an email from say 2-3 years ago. She can't remember exactly who it's from. She knows what the subject was about.
Rough information.
Just give her some information. They go, yeah, I found the email for you. Same as documents on like SharePoint and stuff. So she uses it greatly.
That's where I think Microsoft's really uniquely positioned on this, because I think ChatGPT is great, like brilliant tool, and I use it extensively.
Yeah.
And then I was using it to write some code, and I was finding the process like a little bit painful.
What, ChatGPT or Copilot?
ChatGPT.
Yeah.
I was just giving you the full story of why. And I was finding it a little bit painful. I'd sent it some prompts. By the time I've been using it for half an hour, and it now has some level of understanding of what I'm doing, it starts to like essentially crash my browser, really slow, and I'm finding that painful. So I started using Codex, which is their plugin for it. You can put it straight into Visual Studio and it will analyze your current workspace. Okay. It takes into account all of the code. Same with GitHub Copilot, same with all these other tools. The reason I say all of that is because context is everything. So it's the same models, but now it can see everything. Its output is completely different.
Yeah.
And that's where Microsoft 365 Copilot is dramatic, because, you've obviously got the work and web slider.
Yeah.
And web is basically using an auto-routed GPT-5, but work is the Graph API exposing all of your own personal data. Yeah. And that context is massive, because how it communicates in the future with, a junior sales associate versus an MD is dramatically different. It will take into account like organizational hierarchies, just things that ChatGPT will never get exposure to.
Yeah.
So I think with Copilot, watch this space. It's going to become huge.
Yeah. It definitely is.
And for us, it's a bit of a double whammy where we need to understand it, implement it in our own business processes, but also help our clients do that as well. But, even if we, like I said earlier, even if we weren't an IT firm, we would be massively looking at how each of our departments can use this tooling and how you become more efficient ultimately. And it isn't about...
It's not about replacing it.
It's not about replacing. And that might be, not saying BZB, but in the whole marketplace, in the whole industries and the economy, it probably will be the case that by that consequence is that there's less people in employment. But it is also, just the power of the tooling that is now available, and you can't ignore that in the marketplace we're in. And that is going to be a massive one for us over the next years to come, really.
So your point before we went on that whole circle of AI and so on was like essentially around upskilling staff, right?
Yeah.
And yes, wholeheartedly agree. 5 years ago, you could work in IT, have a semi-interest in computers, and you'd survive in the industry as someone who's semi-knowledgeable. Now, if you don't go and do Microsoft courses on the latest technology they're releasing, if you don't go and upskill in a vendor like FortiGate, Cisco, Fortinet, Cisco, whatever your poison is, then ultimately you will not be a highly skilled worker, and ultimately someone will probably be productive enough for you to not have a role.
I reckon they'd be reliant on just using AIs to answer questions from, like,
the problem is
use it to advantage, wouldn't they?
You're right. They will use it. They will depend upon AI to help them solve problems. But how many hallucinations do you get? Where you're like, well, that's plainly wrong.
Yeah.
And you still have a role.
Yeah, but that's you though. Imagine when you've got, say, a junior kind of person and they just take it for granted. This is like code. You say, write me this code to do X. They just copy and paste it. They've got no idea what the code does. They just assume it's correct.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with you. And that's why skill in prompting is valid.
Yeah.
And skill in understanding output is still needed. It's just made me more productive, just like most people. But that gain in productivity has to be like essentially offset somewhere else, right? If I become twice as many more productive, you don't need twice as many Sams.
Yeah.
So there's your point about losing it across the whole industry.
And how do we, as a business then, over the coming period of time, how do we allow or train staff to kind of integrate with AI? And, you said there, a less experienced person maybe coming into the business that has exposure to AI tools. Okay, fine. Does that mean we don't do training sessions in person with staff anymore because AI can tell them the basics of the role? Like, with all the advancements in technology, how important do you see it for the individual upskilling themselves?
Yeah, I mean, it's a question as old as time in IT. And I genuinely believe now more than ever that the skill trench is just deepening and deepening and deepening. And if you want to be in those higher paying positions, higher paying roles, you've got to be studying in your own time. You've got to have a passion for it. The path's like relatively easy to tread. Like Microsoft puts a huge amount of effort into training, certifications. You've got the applied skills, you've got the certifications, and everyone's always looked at them in the past as they're for your employer, like to pass their solutions partner designations or their partner status stuff. But now it's genuinely, if you want to contribute to a business, you absolutely have to get into those deep skill positions, positions.
And ultimately, they're well paid and well sought after because they are
rare.
They're very rare, yeah. Also, saying trying to get our staff on it, we had to get buy-in from us to do our exam, and you jack yours as well. That helps. No, definitely. No, jokes aside, it does help that when you start doing it ourselves as a kind of leadership, that they know that we're serious, and it's not only benefiting us, it's also benefiting them as well.
Mate, everything. One of the biggest learnings for me about this whole process has been that they won't do what you don't do.
Yeah.
So there isn't, if you're willing to pick up a phone and make a cold call, guess what they are?
Yeah.
If you're willing to, stick your head above the parapet, go and do X, Y, and Z, they are. But they won't do anything that you don't do.
No.
Now that we're kind of grown to 20 head count, we're starting to become a relatively sizable company. Our challenges are kind of what we're looking down the road are starting to change. One of the biggest things for me is starting to build out our processes and build genuine processes that are going to stand the test of the time for the next 5 to 10 years. We've talked a bit there about the technologies and obviously kind of adopting those technologies into these processes that we can build on over the next period of time is going to be really important. What's your kind of view on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think my sense of our biggest challenges with maintaining what you guys do in your department, obviously, we have had you as our only account manager for a good chunk of the business's history. And that worked really well, and it's been based on what you do as a person. You then bring DR in, and you've helped him grow and helped him get into there. And now we're going to be doing the same with Luke. So now we have a 3-person strong department,
which is fine for now. But then, as you said, 3 to 5 years time, when you upskill that, you've got 10 account managers, 15.
However, exactly. Yeah. And how do we make the experience that they get with Luke the same as the experiences that they get with Drag?
Yeah.
We want to make sure that
same QBRs.
It doesn't matter. Exactly. Yeah. Same QBRs, same kind of tone in their messaging.
Yeah.
Same renewals, same agreements, same everything.
Yeah.
To make sure that, essentially we're able to standardize how we manage our relationships, because for me, that's management of those relationships is what makes BZB. Like
people listening, why is that important? Is from my view, is like if that person was to leave, someone else to take their role and they manage those accounts, that person will see the same kind of output. Like, okay, there's no difference now. Someone else has come in and they're in the same way as, say, Luke was or Drag was, whoever it might be.
Yeah,
that's why it's important from my perspective.
I agree. And I think when someone leaves a business, you automatically inherit the right from a client to try and reset that relationship.
Yeah.
So they'll give you like a 6-month grace period where, you know, Luke's left, his accounts have been handed over to Steve. Steve's gone in and Steve's got 6 months to get it right. That's the grace period before they would go, I'm going to look elsewhere because this isn't working for me.
Yeah. And
if you don't get that right, well, the likelihood is wherever Luke's gone is where they're going to follow.
Yeah.
Which is a natural tendency, right?
Yeah.
So yes, that is important from that perspective. I think it's also important from a perspective of making sure everyone knows what the deliverables are within the service. You know, making sure that it's repeatable, that it's stress-free for people to provide, that it's, you know, let's say you could do more in this area because you're more skilled there. And then someone else isn't doing that much and it's causing an issue for that client. And you're like, well, we do that. And you go, well, no, you do. Drag does that, but DR doesn't.
The other good thing, sorry to interrupt you, the other good thing is we found it once in a while, we might have it when someone goes on holiday and then the account calls up and says, oh, I've got this. And because, say, DR's been working on this one account, excuse me, you don't know exactly the full context of what's happened in the past, the last, say, 6 months or 3 months. But with this kind of tool you're referring to, it's going to help with that.
Yeah, I think when I look back on my time in the corporate world and just technology previously, this was always wrapped up in kind of like, well, write it all down and we'll do a roles and responsibilities and we'll have a governance checker and we'll do a monthly dashboard meeting. And actually modern day tooling and what we're looking into now is actually so much more integrated into your workflows, so much more prompting. And, you know, it's not just telling people how Drag does it, but it's also bringing people into the organization that can bring good parts into it itself and having a better whole between you all as well.
Exactly. Let's say you hire your 5th account manager and they come from a completely different industry, but they've got some fantastic ideas. How do you get those ideas out to the other 4 people? Oh, well, we do it this way. Right, we need to stop doing it that way because this way is clearly better. How do we get that out and then manage it, monitor it, make sure that we continually do it? You know, it's all good and well running these incentives for a short period of time, which, you know, most businesses are great at. But then as soon as the spotlight isn't there, you know, it's
just an Excel spreadsheet and a shared folder somewhere and nobody's looking at it anymore, and it's a point in time historic document. That's always the difficulty with these things. And as I say, what we said about the AI, but just better software tooling in the market that we're looking at, even from 12 months ago, let alone 3, 4, 5 years ago, the tools we're looking at are 10 times more sophisticated in how you can build them into those departments.
It's helpful. We've used obviously the account management tool sets, obviously your your project services tool set. That's invaluable. Like you deliver a piece of work to professional services, say this client wants to do whatever it might be, and then you pass it over to Sam's team, and then obviously it's in their kind of portal. And I think you guys work great from that.
I think I mean, you know, come back in 9 months ago was like, this needs to be fixed. We can't keep working out of an Excel spreadsheet here. We've outgrown it.
Let me ask you a question. So, like, how much money have you made for this piece of work? And I've got no idea. Drag.
No idea.
I know we did this. You charged this much, but we spent an extra 4 days, so we've lost money on it.
And I exactly. And I'm like, it was that because we were, you know, kind of training on the time, or was that because we just made a mistake in the original estimate, or, you know, however?
Which we still do now. We'll make an estimate and we go over by a day or two, and
but we see it. Yeah. We see that we went over by a day or two, and we can react to it next time because we know we're constantly learning. I've always said that these tools are, well, there's a couple of things that are worth mentioning. One is minimum viable product every time you go in with this kind of stuff. Give there a base to build from. So, you know, set the ground rules, said this is how we're going to use this tool, set some OKRs for I want to improve it in these directions, and gave it to my team. And, you know, come in, weekly check-in, and they're like, look, we're thinking about creating this report or adding this metric or, you know, whatever. And we're just continually building on it. But without that MVP in place, you can't build on anything. No. So perfection is the enemy of progress. And if you start with the idea of, I'm going to build everything, you're going to build nothing.
Right.
That's my view.
And it is looking at these modern tooling, as I said, you've really got to go and look at those, have those demo conversations with these platform providers.
Don't pick one thing, one kind of product does all of it, because you get some products that say we could do all of it.
That was going to be the second point. I'm not going to talk vendors on here because I realize some of them probably watch it. But for me, we've deliberately gone with a service desk that is a service desk tool. We've gone with a QBR tool that is a QBR tool. And I just think that, you can't do everything well. That just isn't the way the world works. So these massive tools that, run an entire MSP on them, they might be fantastic for a specific area of your business, but they will not be fantastic for the other areas.
I know why they do it though, because it's cheaper, obviously.
Cheaper, easier, someone's doing it for you, all of those things, right? And while all of that is great, the thing that has really resonated with me recently is, we look after around 2,000 users in total, somewhere around that mark. And, out of those 2,000 users, but I'm going to just hypothetically say, let's say 100 of them deal with invoices and quoting in some capacity, whether it's signing them off, whether it's invoicing, whether it's whatever, right? Yeah. So the other 1,900 only know you as the service desk. So imagine if you picked a service desk tool because it was good at invoicing.
Yeah, exactly.
The other 1,900 people are getting a degraded experience with you. So that's
what we changed. Remember, we had our own kind of tool set.
I mean, that.
Which was great at first because we first started out. And then it was just rubbish. When they replied to a ticket, it lost all the history. And then they will go, what's this ticket about? And we're like...
But that tool was fantastic for billing.
Yeah, exactly. It was. Yeah.
You're there like, I'm sorry that your experience is bad, but mine is fantastic.
I can invoice you now.
And ultimately, if you're all using the same tooling that's doing all the same, why are you different to any of your competitors?
How do you create a competitive difference when you're all using the same platform? So I don't want to talk ill of any vendors in particular, but we use a tool that essentially allows us to copy a tenant baseline configuration into one of our clients and then essentially maintain a relationship between the two. So we can see what deviations there are, any drift, any configuration management, basically. Fantastic tool. They got first mover advantage in the market. A few years time, 3 to 5 years time, there'll be 20 of them. They'll be everywhere.
Yeah.
And where I think they've done really well is they've created a community, and they are sharing ideas amongst our peer network, essentially, which is fantastic. But they visibly take ideas from other MSPs and then use them for other MSPs.
Yeah.
So by using the tool and contributing to that community, you are essentially devaluing your own USP, which I think has a shelf life. Of course you can be different. Of course, Joe Bloggs around the corner isn't competing against you, and we want to raising tides, lift all boats, and all of that stuff. But if you're investing R&D and it's then going out the door into someone else, that's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Sam. Another thing that sprang to mind is just the different areas of our business keeping pace with each other. I think as we've grown, obviously each department, like you're singling out accounts there, but we obviously have sales, obviously have marketing. We talked a little bit about your team, professional service. We have servicing, all using different technologies, all with different managers in place now, all reporting into us separately. How do we keep each area on pace with each other?
Well, I spoke to you the other day actually about this. I think us three should have more kind of meetings about that specific kind of task. Like, I don't know what's going on in sales because that's kind of your area. Same as with you, me with account management, you with professional services. Well, to a point we know what's going on because we get the projects signed over, delivered, and then pass them over to you. And we have catch-ups on a kind of weekly basis anyway with professional services. But with marketing and sales, probably is a kind of disjointed kind of place. You update me, but it's not as much as ours is, for instance. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because as far as I'm concerned, that's not my bag. So
yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? When you're so busy in your own world and trying to progress your own channel, if you like, we probably don't come together enough as a leadership team to say, this has worked well, I'm moving this on, etc. And it's also a point for the wider team, like how do we keep people within the team still talking cross channel with each other as they grow. I think that's something that I think is going to be a challenge for us in the near future. And even small things like socials, trying to get a little bit better with them being set in the calendar, maybe making a bigger kind of splash with that kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know if I have the answer other than just saying I think that's a challenge that we're going to face in the next 12 months.
Why do you think we're not doing it now?
I don't think it's that we're not doing it. I think that it's an inevitable challenge of growth.
Yeah.
And what we have been doing has been great for that size of business. But now we've moved to Bristol. We've got 2 locations. We've got ever evolving team in those departments. We've got us 3 who are more split than ever in terms of how much work we've got on and the availability to come together and thrash things and throw things around.
So I think it's down to time and just the fact that busy. You go to Bristol for 1 day, 2 days.
Yeah.
That's 2 days out of the way.
Yeah.
You can't do.
Yeah, I think sometimes you just feel like you're in a little bit of survival mode. And communication probably comes as a nice to have rather than a must have. So you're there like, I just need to make my department how I need my department. And maybe it is the time that we start doing more around actual board meetings, starting to
have them though, don't we? We have them have a cup of coffee, we drink and we discuss it, but not actually sit down, have an agenda, discuss about.
Yeah, the problem is that I think honestly, by the time you've done an agenda and a meeting and whatever, it's old. Like we move so fast that you're literally like, I'm going to talk about this next week, and then by the time I get to next week, I've probably moved it on, and I've probably gone, I didn't actually need you.
That's what I'm saying. Our board meetings are normally fluid. You literally have a chat about the business.
We've had someone who I would absolutely love to get involved talking, I can come and give you guys strategic advice. I can come and give you who would be genuinely useful to us. And we're just there like every time we think about going to do it, it's moved. And, I don't know how you keep those comms going without being in constant communication with each other.
Yeah. And like you say, it feels like that's getting quicker and more intense as we grow.
Yeah.
And maybe it's one for the audience of anybody who's kind of maybe grown past the point we are now that could give us some good hints, and our audience some good hints and more tips, more like on that. But I think it's something we will face, just trying to make sure a department or a certain area doesn't fall behind.
Well, I think one thing that we have done well that has been there for quite some time is, in a lot of businesses that I've worked in the past, MSP wise, projects isn't a separate department. Professional services isn't a separate department. It sits on the help desk, and you do both.
Yeah.
And as an employee, that was an absolute disaster because you've got the phone ringing when you're in the middle of a major change. And you're there like, are you kidding me? That can't be any worse time. And then, someone's, quite frankly, probably not priority issue to me is now being jumped ahead. And I'm now trying to manage 2 situations in a deep work situation. It's about the worst scenario you could end up with. So for us, splitting out professional services from account management, from help desk, from, I know sales and marketing and everything else you're going to be all normally, but I think that's one of the best decisions we've made. And I've had a big, back and forth with my team where I've said, no, I just want you to do professional services, and they're like, no, but we can help with defining the service proposition. We can help account management with this needs to be done, that needs to be done, and I just go, no, it's your role is this, and that's been a really pain point as that growth has happened, where you've had to take people who have wanted to cross contribute and go, your best place just giving your input in the most skilled area because you're the most skilled person.
Yeah.
And highlighting that weakness has allowed us to go and employ for that role rather than it being stick and plastered by somebody else, which is important for us to know. If there's an obvious pain point, then it shouldn't be solved by a department that aren't involved in that process as such. One of the kind of parts that I pulled out there was that we've expanded to Bristol and put a physical location in Bristol. we've had a lot of discussion about that and a lot of reasons for that and why we felt that that was a really important part of our journey for the next 18 months, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is. Give me your narratives on that, why we've done that, and share that with, I think, the audience will be wanting us to talk a little bit about why we've done that.
I think when we kind of tender for kind of new business, client will come to us, we'll go to the client and you tender for it, and then you lose it or don't lose it. You kind of think, okay, never mind, we've just lost it for whatever reason. But I remember there was a few clients that we didn't get, and we got down to the last two kind of companies, and they said we were better than the other IT company, but because we weren't Bristol based, they went to the other company because they were Bristol based. I'm thinking, but we're only literally like half an hour away from you, or 45 minutes, whatever you want to call it. And we've lost, not a lot, but we've lost quite a few just because we didn't have a Bristol based office. So I think it was quite important that we actually did, like you said, this is our HQ, Bath is HQ, but we needed to have a Bristol office just to service our Bristol clients. We do have quite a few Bristol clients. Yeah. It's peace of mind for them as well. Like if it's an issue, they know we're 5-10 minutes away.
Yeah, I think for whatever reason, and a huge amount of IT is clearly B2B relationship management.
Yeah.
And face-to-face will just always trump any other form of comms, right? So if you've got an IT company up north or in the Midlands that you never see, but your only office is down in the Southwest, then you're not necessarily going to get the same personable, close relationship that you would if you bought locally.
Yeah.
Now, if you're a multinational chain, then that might not matter to you because you're never going to get that. But if you are local and you want that level of connection, then having someone who has a presence locally is always going to be the best bet for you.
Yeah.
So for us, like as a growth strategy, having HQ in Bath, having a lot of the, shared services, so professional services, some sales, some marketing, all of the, things we want to do as a centralized thing will be likely here. But Bristol office will have account managers, will have help desk staff. It will just act all the things that we need.
Just an extension, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So as a growth strategy goes, well, Exeter, Plymouth, other areas of the Southwest.
Culture, isn't it? Because then to have the same culture as we do in Bath, that's why it's quite important when the guys come over to Bath on Thursday, just so they can meet a team and actually get to know people. Otherwise, you're always going to be disjointed. And I think also the important part is going to Bristol as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that we've been really fortunate with is we've obviously have a couple of people that we've been able to parachute straight into Bristol who have worked in Bath. So they've just naturally extended our culture into there. So I think from that perspective, we've been relatively fortunate that can get off to a right start and go. And then obviously you've been over there a lot, working from that office, which is also another thing. But we've had to make a conscious effort in order to get that culture to our culture.
Yeah, 100%. Look, we moved on the Bristol office quickly, but we didn't take that lightly. And we know how difficult it will be to launch that properly with the right cultures, the right behaviors, the right staff, servicing, account management, everything from there. But we sat down there. We sat down as a team and said, how do we grow this business? And you have the angle of acquisition and buying up ultimately expensive businesses that have different ways of working, different cultures, different staff, different processes, different expectations with their clients.
Different clients.
Different everything. Or shall we actually do what we found to be important to our clients, which is being physically close to their offices with skilled engineers, but having a good level of skill wherever that might be, that can be almost parachuted into that place when it's things like one-off projects. So from a principal perspective, I'm completely kind of confident in what we're doing, and I think it's got off to a really good start. We've already employed 2 people aside from the people we parachuted into those offices.
A couple of clients as well.
We've won a couple of clients. We've had some more internal kind of referrals to us for, like you said earlier, we're not far from Bristol, but Bristol-based companies don't type in Bath IT support. They still go, who's in and around me. So obviously it's helped from an attracting sales point of view. It's helped from a servicing our existing Bristol point of view. I think it's a good way forward.
Yeah, and it's also opened up a talent pool. You know, I know you mentioned you obviously made 2 hires, but you know, it's people that probably wouldn't have considered working for us if we were solely in Bath.
Yeah, I think that's kind of been the easiest hires in terms of applications and getting them in and getting that all sorted.
That one candidate we had, one of the questions was, can I work from home because there's no Bristol office? So we didn't employ him because obviously he didn't want to travel, spend all the money coming to Bath every day.
Yeah. I mean,
that opportunity.
I've obviously played cricket for a Bath-based team for a long, long time. And we typically tend to get people who are falling out of Bath seconds into
Is that you now?
Yeah. I'm way out of that. So yeah, we pick them up. They're often Bath uni kids. They'll do the 3 years with us, 4 years with us, however long their course is. And I can practically guarantee you, at the end of it, they will pack up, move to Bristol, get a 1-bed flat, or a house share with their mates or whatever. And the last thing they want to be doing is working at home in a 1-bed flat. They want to be out experiencing the world in a dynamic workplace. And the second thing they want is some level of human connection for that. Yeah. So I think being able to provide an office somewhere for them to go.
Centre of Bristol, right in the centre.
Exactly. They haven't got to jump on a train, get over to Bath, walk 15 minutes from the train station, all of that stuff, So I think, that office is just going to scale and scale and scale for us.
Do you find that if you wanted to open up another office, we did, say, in Exeter, for example, would you not find that harder for them to have our culture because they're so far away? That's going to be the next challenge, obviously, to open another one.
One of us would have to travel down there for 2-3 times a week. The initial, it's an hour drive. We haven't got anyone that we would, at this point in time, we haven't got anyone that we would be able to just go, hey, look, do you want to go there instead of Bath?
That's the next challenge.
Yeah, and in reality, even the launch in Bristol has taken up a lot of my time. Yeah. We've employed somebody in marketing to go and help launch that on a part-time basis. We've promoted 2 people to go and work out that. So, there's been clear uplift in responsibilities across 4 or 5 people to go and launch that office. It isn't a case of just go and get an address so that we can pretend we're in Bristol. It's a genuine launch of a culture and office that needs to match what's here.
I mean, I noticed that a fair whack of our competitors have just a desk and a shared working space with clearly they don't work from there.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit frustrating because in Bath, the shared office spaces are pretty hard to come by. Like, I think you've got a couple in Queen Square, a couple of dotted around. I think Newark Works has a few spaces or whatever. But in the main, it's basically go find a landlord, sign your own lease, get registered with the council, get your business rates going. Like, there's a whole setup cost to it. Bristol, my experience is that's pretty rare, and that most people are going into shared office spaces. Even the big boys are renting shared office spaces. And that, I think, makes it really difficult for clients to actually differentiate between who has a genuine presence here versus who has a name plaque on the door with nothing in it, because you can't go in and go, excuse me, what unit are they in and how many desks do they have? What's the square footage? None of that.
I like to think that all of that kind of stuff comes out in the wash, whether it's, when you actually get into the nuts and bolts of a sales discussion or the servicing and it's clearly not local. I think those facades only last for so long. And it probably goes back to the point we had in the last episode with Anita that, these things do have a tendency to come out.
Imagine, the disingenuous nature of that introduction being that you've essentially kind of, bent the truth in your marketing a little bit, is putting it nicely. And then you've got to go and warm that back up in the sales process is probably really difficult.
Yeah, exactly. So not sure how well that goes, but it's going to be we go back to the topic of the podcast in terms of challenges coming down the road, and that's definitely going to be a big one and a lot of our focus, but could be massive for us at the same time. It's an excitement.
It's an excitement.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. I won't quote him. He won't watch the podcast, but we can put we can put a short out just about excitement.
Do I know that person?
Yes.
I think that's a good note to end this podcast on. I enjoyed that. I think it was good to have a little bit of a little bit of an insight into us in terms of what we're thinking about going forward. We have a couple of questions, but the first one is, how's the Bristol office going and how does Bristol compare to Bath? And we pretty much just...
The good thing about the Bristol office, everything's near you, isn't it? Like in here, to go into town takes you like 15 minutes to go into town.
You've literally just got Tesco's, and if you're really feeling a nice long walk, you can go to M&S. But like in Bristol, you walk out the door and everything's on your doorstep. It's expensive.
It's very expensive. But food or the rent.
Food. Yeah. Well, I mean, just the lunches and stuff. Expensive for both your waistline and your wallet.
There's all the most amazing lunches on your doorstep, and I have a guilty pleasure going to Subway at the moment.
Every time.
At the moment, yeah. I don't know why either. So the second question and the last question that we had in was a simple one. Who films your podcast? And I think this is a good chance for us to shout out Simon, who does a fantastic job with us and pulls together somehow a coherent episode when we're done.
He must have been weeks on it trying to get all the footage for like 10 minutes of good
Every time quality. We leave here, I'm like, well, that was a disaster. And then suddenly there's something slightly coherent getting produced, and I'm like, wow, this man can work miracles.
Maybe he's used AI. Maybe
maybe we'll have to ask him that next time. How much has AI gone into your...
I don't remember Drag saying that.
But we'll tag him below, and he does a great job, so thanks for that question. And thank you to Simon for what he does for us.
Thank you, Simon.
Yeah, great. So we'll end there, and thank you as always for listening. And if you've got any topics or questions, please do leave them in the comments below. Or send us an email at podcast@bzbit.co.uk. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you very much, and see you on the next one.